a very, very warm welcome to everybody, and of course also to my panelists here. I'll give them a quick minute to introduce themselves after I mentioned that we are discussing here now the topic of the GCCM 2023 here in London, the messaging platform and tools, and especially the challenges and the opportunities for collaboration. But foremost, actually, what does it mean for you? Again, having a full audience here. So yeah, I'll shut a little bit up, and I'll give the word to Scott and to the rest of my panelists to introduce themselves. Scott.
Hi, my name's Scott Warner. I'm the Director of Emerging Services at S&BTS. S&BTS, just a short introduction, is a joint venture between SoftBank, the Japanese mobile operator, and BTS, which is Business Telecommunications Services. We are positioning ourselves quite uniquely between a mobile operator, a wholesale voice and messaging business, and actually an enterprise and investment business as well. My role is looking at our CPaaS product with a specific focus on messaging.
Okay, thank you. Nick?
Thanks. Hi, my name's Nick Lane. I am the Chief Insight Analyst and founder of Mobile Squared, with a leading business messaging intelligence provider, looking at all things to do with messaging and also CPaaS, but we do a big focus on SMS, and we're about to do a very big update where we shall change the way that hopefully the industry looks at SMS.
And will you all as well change the industry by then or not?
One day at a time.
One day at a time. Thank you so much, and great having you, Nick. Jakob, last but not least, but welcome.
Thank you. Is this working? Yeah. So my name is Jacob. I'm the founder of Bospec, and I'm responsible for sales at Bospec. Bospec is a Swedish company. We're situated in Stockholm, and we have something that we call a low-code platform, and we cooperate with a lot of telcos, and they provide our solution so the enterprise customers can create, in an easier way, create messaging and voice solutions. So a local platform is a platform where you can develop IT solutions without developers. So it becomes an easy way to do that in an effective way. Yeah.
Okay, good.
We have been doing this for 10 years. Okay. We mainly in Europe and US and some in the Asia.
Okay, so global coverage. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, and welcome to you as well, Jakob, and great having you. Now, gentlemen, let me stay with you, Jakob. I mean, the messaging platform landscape. I mean, what are the biggest questions that clients come to you and they say, listen, you know what, I want this, and that. What are the main, not so much the features, but what's the main question from them, and why they come to you?
Yeah, that's the question. No, but I think the main question they have, I think, of course, the questions are different in different kind of use cases, but I think the most use cases today are in the marketing and sales area, where they would like to provide messaging to customers and to, yeah. And what they are looking into is how to automate the messaging services and how to have a data-driven messaging service. So, I mean, they would like to collect data, and based on the data, they would like to automate the messaging services. That's the main questions.
Okay. And I mean, you're building the thing yourself.
Yes, so we're actually...
What were your challenges?
I mean, we're quite literally right now in the middle of a migration onto our new internally developed.
Oops.
That's why I'm here.
Good luck.
So we're quite literally in the middle of a migration onto a new platform that we've developed internally, and we found that, you know, there's lots of really like fantastic third-party platforms available in the market. As we grew the business, we found that there were certain features and flexibility that we required and that we wanted to take in-house. We have a fantastic development team already within the organization and part of BTS Group, with a lot of experience of building platforms across voice and messaging. You know, there's all of those challenges that come with the migration, but what we see is really valuable for us is being able to give us a long-term flexibility in adding new features. We know that if I look at the messaging market, and you know, my background is in SMS, and we look at the SMS platforms over the last 10 years, the requirements and flexibility of those platforms has really grown significantly. The complexity has grown a lot.
Due to Omni, CPaaS?
The omni-channel, there's also, I mean, there's straightforward things in the SMS business related to regulatory requirements. When you look at sender ID registration, the massive differences between regions, you know, the different processes required depending on the country that you're dealing with, that if your platform isn't flexible enough, it becomes very difficult to do business in some of these regions.
And that flexibility you mentioned, is that, do you mean also on the wholesale or enterprise level, or what is it? Where's the demand coming from?
Yeah, so I mean, you know, the enterprise level theoretically actually is more straightforward. When you know, we have a wholesale business and an enterprise business. Within the wholesale business for messaging, if you consider that you might have 100 sender IDs within a set of traffic, and that might have 20 different use cases potentially, depending on what you're carrying. The managing of that traffic is very important, both commercially and just to make sure you're keeping within regulation.
Okay, thank you, Nick. I mean, what is your take on it? What's your view on it? If you overlook, let's say, the platform, including their tools, the landscape, what and how is the market changing? And how do you see that the platform providers, if you do this for yourself in-house, white labeled, or you do it, you know, as Jakob does it, you know, serving all the clients with their solution? What do you see? What is it? What are the specific or the characteristics you see?
There's about 5 questions there. So
I know, including A and B, right?
yeah, right. Okay, so let's go through one by one. So in terms of, if you look at it from an SMS perspective, what we're seeing, and from our research, the analysis of that, is a lot of the, I guess, because SMS dominates everything. So it's dominating messaging. You know, accounted for about 98% of all messages sent last year. So it's, you know, it's still the go-to platform. It's the bedrock for everything. Same with CPaaS. You know, 65% of all spend on CPaaS last year was SMS. So, you know, SMS is pivotal. 3rd time I've used that today. I've got to stop using.
I heard it.
You can buy me a thesaurus for Christmas. So in terms of where we are with SMS, it's kind of looking to, can we prolong that? What's the longevity that we can get there? Because a lot of the discussions that we've had around rich messaging for the last 5 years are now starting to be almost applied to SMS. So looking at, you know, can we kind of add new functions and features to SMS? You know, can we, you know, kind of font sizes, different fonts, colors, underline, just basic things that just kind of just help kind of bring that message a bit more to life. Then you look at things like differentiated pricing. These are all things that have been, you know, linked with RCS for a long time. Now is this possible on SMS? You know, and there's a number of companies that are looking into it. Some believe it's possible, some think it's not possible, but it's going to add more complexity potentially to what we're seeing with SMS. So, you know, that's kind of, I think, where SMS is. But again, aside from the topics that we discussed this morning, you guys discussed, you know, aside from that, you know, the potential there, it's just whether the industry gets it right. So then looking at other platforms, RCS, WhatsApp, etc., they've got their own issues. RCS has been around for a long time, and it's all, you know, it's still in experimental phase. That's got a number of issues as well. Then you look at something like WhatsApp, and it's marketed in the wrong way. Because, you know, it's always come and connect to over 2 billion users, but you can't connect to any unless you've got a specific WhatsApp database for your brand. Then you've got all the regulations and the guidelines that you need to follow, which makes it very, very difficult. So again, you come back to, well, actually, if we get messaging right for an SMS, then we'll get all the other channels right as well. And it'll kind of, the growth will emanate from there. But until we get certain things, until we do certain things in essence in the right way, you know, it's still going to limit the growth that we'll see on rich messaging and also CPaaS, in my opinion.
And the other 4 questions?
Yes, no, and maybe.
Okay, and B? We'll see.
Definitely.
Definitely. Pivotal. Oh, I think so too. Well, all right. So Jacob, why would you think operators or users are choosing, let's say, a third-party supplier, or look for it more to look in-house because they say, as we just heard, because we have a lot of developers, we have the knowledge in-house. You would fight that, right? Because you would say, we're the specialist, we can do this better for you. Well, where do you see the demand from the customer? Where do you see that the decision is made, that they say, well, you know what, Jacob, come on, you do it for us instead of we do it in-house?
I think that's not the case for us. Maybe a lot of the operators are doing the messaging platform in-house, but when it comes to an enterprise, they need to do something more between their systems and the messaging provider. So that's where we are. So if they are using, for example, if they are using HubSpot and they would like to send messages, they need to developing something in between there. And it's always a specific use case that they need to solve there. So, and they need to put a lot of special development or make it work. So, yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of the telcos doesn't want to do that by themselves. They just would like to handle it over to the customers. And we can see that around 60% of the use cases will not be done since the business case is not clear enough, and it becomes too expensive to integrate the solutions into the enterprise solutions.
But do you help them with it?
So our system helps them with them to make the business case more clear and more simple, and yeah, it doesn't cost too much to do it. Yeah.
Okay. So Scott, what was your decision to say, well, you know what, we were going to do this in-house instead of, you know?
So I think, you know, we have
it from the shelf.
Yeah, we have sort of a let's say a legacy in platform development, going back to, especially if we talk about the BTS group.
Legacy sometimes is being stubborn as well, right?
Yes, that too. But you know, if you look at the
dropping a bomb here, huh?
yeah. Oh. if you look at the business, you know, we also, by the way, are also acting as a third-party supplier for platforms. So we also have customers buying platforms from us, and we're supporting that. So you know, we have the development resources and expertise in-house. To be kind of transparent about it, when we started in our kind of messaging story, we've been using third-party platforms because it was like, okay, let's do this step by step, right? But then we found, you know, and we've found recently that as that business has grown, as it grows, that adds more complexity to it. How can we give ourselves that flexibility? And the only real solution we had, you know, the only real solution we had at that point was then we do something in-house. I mean, that was always our plan. That was always on the roadmap. So yeah, and now this week is the time that we migrate it. So yeah, I'll tell you next week.
Well, next week you will be busy, trust me, with your migration, because it never goes smooth, right? I mean, asking the audience, I mean, have you ever implemented, let's say, a new platform, whatever, and has it been as smooth? Don't want to be negative here, but it is quite heavy on an organization, right? Is it? I mean, you all dealt with it, you're dealing it as for now, like Scott and SBTS. but it's tough. And Nick, do you hear stories? I mean, you talk to everybody. You have the, as we said before, you have, let's say, the helicopter view on the market. And but what are the stories that you hear which you can share with us? What are the pains of on the decision of doing it in-house, or getting a third party in there, or consultants to help you with, or whatever, what do you see? That's one question.
It's typically normally around mobile operators who, certainly in the messaging side, are massively under-resourced. So, they are, if they try and do things in-house, they're going to likely struggle. So especially, if they're looking at certainly on the monitoring side of traffic, and therefore, they're going to get probably a much better solution if they outsource it and they, use a partner for a managed service. So that's primarily the biggest issue that we come across is just the fact that, if you look at the number, how many people are actually running that team, the messaging team with an operator, it's not that many. And then on top of that, you then kind of think, well, in the world of CPaaS and omnichannel, what kind of element of what part of the operator they're dealing with? Because potentially it could be part of your digital services team, etc. So then you're trying to bring kind of collaboration across, what is very much and still is very much a siloed environment. So, there are lots of issues there in terms of bringing all of these elements together. And that's typically why, there's a role for consultants, obviously, but also a role for CPaaS providers, really. It's trying to kind of address that, especially with operators where they see a decline in voice revenues. They've obviously still got data. Messaging revenues aren't what they should be, in my opinion. So they've got to do something. So if that means trying to tap into the CPaaS opportunity, then in theory, they should be very well placed to do that.
Anybody being in the CPaaS environment, are you happy with it or what? Are you happy? Huh? Yeah. Thank you.
Much better, yeah, thank you. Well, the CPaaS is an environment. There is not such a thing as a solution, I mean, when you go down to the customers, like each customer has a different requirement. So what is happening now in the market, what I've seen is, it is all about the IoT, as someone was mentioning, like collecting all the information and then working on it. So it's more like a modular thing. So you find like all solutions, if you go to the market, somehow, most of the customers, they need the same in a different way, So you just have like probably different channels. You have SMS, you have voice, you have email, you have WhatsApp business, you have Viber. But not all the channels are accepted in the same areas. Not all the channels are accepted in the same verticals in the industry. So I'm very interested in Scott's discussion because seems like he understands the way how the market is moving, because your solution is pretty much based on needs. You don't want to tell the customers what to do, but what they can do.
Yeah, and I think, as Diego said, I think from one of the other key things for us is we have voice services, we have numbering services, we have the kind of CPaaS like set of products, let's say. And one of the reasons that we wanted to do this migration on the messaging side was it's a disjointed ecosystem internally when you have separate platforms for your separate products, but we're selling to the same customers, by the way. So we're selling voice services, numbering services, messaging services to the same customers, whether that's in the wholesale market, operators, enterprises. But we're managing it internally through separate platforms. So one of the other things we wanted to kind of bring those platforms together, and that enables us to be a little bit more sophisticated in the way we deal with customers across multiple products. And I mean, when we have a remote workforce, so we have people in, India, in Singapore, in Japan, in Spain, I'm in Munich. We have people in Miami and across the
All
US.
the easy time zone.
We have we have guys in LATAM. We have people all over the world. So when you're having multiple different services across multiple different products, even things as simple as training people on all of these different platforms that all have different looking interfaces, they all function differently.
The operation.
Yeah, that's tricky. So we want to try and like almost slim down the complexity.
Talking about please, yes, you want to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, from our perspective, from the research, it's 90% of all CPaaS spend over the next 5 years is going to be over 4 channels. So it's SMS, voice, email, and WhatsApp. So they are the 4 main. And that's also back to your point. If you go around and look at the key channels in each region, typically it is going to be SMS plus 1. And that's primarily what it is. In Africa, it's mostly SMS, but WhatsApp is emerging. But that's kind of where CPaaS is. And also, if you actually do the analysis of where the spend is as in itself, most of that traffic is one way. So whilst we talk about conversational commerce, we're still really not quite there yet in terms of an industry or even educating the consumer about, starting to embrace the idea of actually engaging with a brand over your phone, rather than have, because I think people still think high street, we've got to go into a shop to actually ask questions really, or maybe, we can have, use web chat potentially, but it's not massive really in terms of where.
So what does it take? So what does it take?
I think it's also, well, what does it take? It's time. I think everything migrates a lot slower or kind of evolves a lot slower than we always expect. We can say that because we've been forecasting these things for a long time, and our forecasts keep coming down, 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 and down. Apart from SMS, which go up. But is it education? I don't know. It's a tricky one because consumers do want to. They do want to engage with companies, because if you go back 10, 15 years, and you do all the consumer research, and everyone used to say, well, my mobile phone is my device. It's my personal device. I'm not going to give my number out to anyone.
Yes,
Today,
sure.
everyone has my number, and it's the same. We looked at numbers when we did our CPaaS research. I think consumers, 40% of people actually said that they get messages from brands. 90% of the same people that we surveyed across about 12,000 people had opted in to get messages from brands. So you kind of, again, people don't really quite understand what that communication is between themselves and a brand, and how we as an industry kind of interpret that.
And how can we educate them then? Because is their education, is it that one of the key, or the explanation or the translation to what it can do to you, help you, bring you?
It's the benefit, isn't it? If you look at something like Apple Messages for Business, which is obviously a customer care inbound only channel, a lot of companies are switching it off because people don't use it because they can't find it. So that's one of the big problems there, is discoverability. So again, something like Habla, yeah, which is obviously a new service that is trying to address that. But aside from that, it's down to education and making things easy for the consumer. And it's not a bad thing to have a chat with a chatbot on your phone or via your PC. Some people still think it's bad. You have to speak to an agent. You don't.
No, you don't. Jacob, anything to add on that one?
No, I think I don't know. I mean, we're really in the middle of everything where people would like to do things, and I think in some cases they would like to do it, and they are testing, and I think a lot of enterprises are testing things, and it takes time to get the right thing to work. So
time is
time, because they don't know what will work. I mean, I can see that the growth in email is bigger right now than in SMS, for example, since due to the increase in price of messaging.
Which is a logical thing then, right?
Do you think pricing is key? So which channels enterprise?
What we hear, that's why they are switching, and the possibility. I mean, there are some good new features in email that makes it go through in a better way today than it was a couple of years ago.
But if you look at the pricing model for email, you can send out God knows how many
zillion,
for $1. And it's a similar model for in-app push notifications. So you still got that traffic going through the roof itself. But then if you go back a year or two, in SMS, you've got the major players trying to drive down the cost of the message, so it's almost, trying to get us onto a par with email.
Yeah.
And again, it's coming back to what we were saying earlier, but it's the wrong kind of dynamic that we're looking at here, because ultimately you cannot compare email and SMS. They're two different channels. SMS is all about more the conversion and the engagement and the interaction. Then there should be a price attached to that, not 25, 40 cents a message, which is what's happening. But I think the pricing in SMS is just a rebound from what's
But
been
also
happening
the
for the last couple of
But
years.
also the quality. I mean, how many emails do you get and you just don't open them because unknown? We don't know who is it. So what do? Immediately in the trash bin. Well, with SMS, what is it? 93% is opening up the SMS, and what is it? 90% is sort of reading it actually.
Well,
So
our
adoption
stats,
rate.
so it's 90% were read
you go.
within 3 minutes, but that's 13 years old, that stat from us.
Yeah.
Now it's 55%.
Okay.
We're seeing are actually opened, but typically everyone sees the messages as they come in and sit on their home screen or lock screen.
Because
then
when
they
you get a
decide when-
message, you look what that message is.
And then you decide whether you want to do something.
Exactly.
or not.
While with an email, it's like, or not. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you were mentioning email is
Yeah.
going up because it's cheaper, and
I think maybe
Well, the
the
quality of it,
open rate is
Sorry.
maybe higher in SMS, but I don't know if the end result is higher if you're sending something with SMS. So yeah. Yeah,
I think.
maybe,
I mean, you did research, well,
yeah.
especially this. It still is, right?
Yeah, I think we were also, and I on the previous panel we touched on it. I think when we look at use cases of SMS, we're like, sometimes A2P SMS is like an interchangeable word for one-time password.
Yeah.
And we forget that there's actually this whole, I see this whole opportunity within this conversational commerce piece, the two-way services, which and I think there's a reason that some of the really big omni-channel players, of course, there's a macroeconomic reason, but there's other reasons that they're struggling, because I think that there's been a slower uptake on that omni-channel conversational two-way service piece. I think that's slower than people expected, because I think if I think about, I think it was like MWC 2013, there was the same level of excitement about it as there is today. And I then think about my real life sort of experience dealing with businesses, and there's very few real two-way messaging services that function well. I mean, shout out one shout out, my hotel that I'm staying in here uses WhatsApp for business, and they message you as you check in saying, hey, welcome, it's the Zedwell Hotel at Piccadilly. They message you when you check in saying, hey, welcome to the hotel. If you need anything, drop us a message here. And when I was in the pub last night, I knew I had to iron my shirt this morning. I messaged them saying, can I get an ironing board and iron for my room? And when I got back from the pub, there was one in my room.
Hey.
I thought that was a cool use case.
No, it is a cool use case.
So I ordered an ironing board from the
It was
pub.
actually a bit
That's
warm.
a cool use case.
It was a warm use case, right?
Exactly. But yeah, I think like there's all this stuff, right? And I found that quite exciting because I'm a messaging
industry.
geek, right?
You love it.
But yeah, I'm excited to see how that develops, and like that could be over an SMS channel, it could be over a WhatsApp channel, it could be, it depends on what country you're in, it depends on who you are, what technology you're using. But yeah, I think we need to try and start looking at what are these like future services.
No, absolutely.
Sorry, can I just add one more thing?
Yeah.
I'll be quiet.
Okay.
I mean, one of the things that we've been banging on about for a few years is, if you look at the ARPU, mobile advertising, just on smartphone users, and it's about $45 to $50 a year. And on messaging, it's about just over $4 a year. So, that's the point. It's other industries are monetizing mobile phones far better than companies actually immersed in it. And that shows the potential. There's no reason why messaging shouldn't be a $50 ARPU industry. And there's no reason why that won't happen. But again, it's going to take a long time, and it needs some kind of catalyst.
Okay, but if we can triple overnight normally, you know, with the ARPU, and time is, let's say, our enemy in this case, because other industries, they say, well, you know what, I'm going to use it like this, I'm going to make nice lot of money out of it. And while you, telco, keep on sleeping, keep on dreaming. What is needed as next to time? Because time for me, I'm trying to get a bit more out of it, and also for you guys. Is it a change in mind, change in business sense? Is it what is it that we need? Because
Apple.
that's what we need.
We need Apple. We need Apple to change its approach to messaging and offer an outbound marketing solution on iMessage.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think once you have that, you then pretty much have ubiquity
Yeah.
again. Because you can then potentially go Android, go iOS.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the thing that's missing. I think once that happens, that's when you'll start to see the cliched hockey stick growth.
Okay.
Because I think companies will get it. And
All right.
that's what's missing. You know, it's I think positioning Apple to support RCS is the wrong way of going about it. It's
Mhm.
just a case of getting Apple to do something,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and just say, right, okay, yep, our channel's going to be protected, got to be verified, but you can now use it for marketing. And if, you know, promotions or whatever, and if that changes, then I think that's when you'll suddenly see the big growth.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. Want to add something, Scott? Or you agree with it? Is that?
I mean, I think going back to kind of the platforms part of the topic, I think that's really key to get that growth. And even, you know, even if Apple do introduce a simple way to get to that ecosystem as well, there's still a lot of complexity in the fragmentation of messaging. So I think platforms have to be built to, and I know this is what you're doing, right? To simplify that complexity.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just think the platforms are still fundamentally key to being able to use these channels effectively.
Jakob?
Yeah, I don't know. I think to get Apple into this would probably be a good thing to do, but yeah, it's hard to see from it's better to see in the forecast what will happen, but I can't see what will happen. The difference, I don't think RCS will be a thing that we will do in the future. I can't see the.
We can have another 2 hours discussion.
Yeah.
Which we won't.
I mean, the strength with the SMS is the simplicity of it. You don't have to do anything with it. You just, if you need to register or do something with your.
Isn't that, maybe I'm too much old school, but isn't that the beauty of SMS?
Yeah.
Isn't that just the beauty of SMS? Such a simple thing, 160 characters, and everybody gets it, everybody understands it, and everybody can work with it. And if we're more clever, we can make more money out of it. Did I cover the research fully?
Yeah.
So what?
Very good at selling SMS.
Mm.
Less than 10% businesses use SMS.
No.
So organic growth is there if we just find a way of selling it better.
Mm-hmm.
And then that in itself becomes a bigger platform for rich messaging and CPaaS.
Yeah.
But maybe CPaaS is the way of bringing more companies in, because if you're
think so
if you're
too, yeah.
using email and other channels, but you don't use SMS, you start using a CPaaS provider, and they might say, well, actually, you can use SMS.
Yeah.
So gradually, it's bringing all these different kind of disparate worlds together,
Mm-hmm. And it
and that obviously
extrapolates
feeds
if
into
everything
you.
comes together.
1 sec.
And but are we saying or concluding that then if everything comes together, it extrapolates the hockey stick on also on revenue margins? Because if we don't watch it, I mean, we go the same way that we went with voice, right? Killing each other and killing sort of the market. Is that true?
I think it's complementary services. So I think, you know, when you look at all of the different messaging channels, if we look at the hundreds of, I think no one quite, well, at least I didn't quite expect the messaging, the kind of OTT messaging part to be quite as fragmented. It's more fragmented than it probably was 5 years ago, with like the introduction of all of, you know, new applications every month there seems to be a new messaging application. Every month there's a new drama about an old messaging application. Everyone wants to move from one to the other. And I think that fragmentation is something that we as an industry have to manage better. And then the way that you position that to an enterprise, and I think this is what Jacob is kind of working on, is how do you help the enterprise to work with us CPaaS players? Because I think for those big enterprises, they have the resources, they have the finances to probably integrate and buy in expertise to do that. But I wonder, how can we get more? And what was it? 20% of businesses or 10% of businesses use less than 10%. Like that other 90%, there's a lot of small businesses in there that will need a lot of support in order to use those services effectively. So it just becomes about how do we make that simple?
All right, cool. Wrapping it up. How can the platforms contribute to let's say, not only get a better understanding, making sure that we can educate maybe more faster in a time to market, make it clearer, and to make a bit more money out of it? Who wants to take it? That's your pitch to your customers.
No, I think you have to see the enterprise use cases to do services that the enterprise needs. I was at the session before in this morning, and I heard that the market for multi-factor authentication was very big. I think in the Scandinavian market, nobody uses it since 3 years ago. Everybody has kind of mobile ID. I think there are not 1% of the market for messaging that's sending multi-factor authentication. And that, so yes, you have to understand the use case. So it could have been SMS, still SMS, if they have developed the SMS in the right way. But they have better solutions today for doing that.
Okay, thank you. Scott, your closing statement?
Yeah, I think platforms are fundamental for this industry to grow in the way that we want it to be. I think we're in a period of transition a little bit as an industry, where I believe that the one-time password use case will hopefully become less dominant because other use cases are growing. And I hope that we can build platforms that are flexible enough and that we can develop quick enough to keep up with the demand of the enterprise. And I think, yes, so I think platforms are, flexible and simple platforms are absolutely vital for the success of the business.
Again, good luck with your migration. Nick, your takeaway.
Well, everything is moving towards CPaaS. So that is communications platform as a service. So it's as simple as that. It's who does it the best and who kind of encourages the migration from non-CPaaS specialists or email specialists, voice specialists, and can then bring all of that external traffic into that CPaaS domain. So whoever does that the best will succeed. But, on top of that, it's meeting enterprises' demands, but also, we've got to look at the consumer as well. Make sure that whatever the enterprise do is communicating via a platform that is the chosen channel of that consumer at that point of time. So, it's only going to get more complex, but that's where I guess Prospect come in and lots of other providers come in to kind of address that.
All right. And with that note, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you, unless you have another question, and thank you for your question, by the way. Any other questions from you? Then with those words from the senior panelists here, I would like to thank you so much for joining us. Have a great lunch. And I would like to thank my panelist, Nick. Always good. I mean, if you want to know something or do have some research or analyst reports from the market, then go to the guy. He knows. And Scott, SBTS, all the good luck with your migration. But best of luck. But I know you and the team will succeed. And Jacob, thank you so much. and for your contribution and your sharing your knowledge with us all here.